We believe that wealth is a journey, and that this is your jumpstart to trading success. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Traders Mindchat Show. I'm Mike.
And I'm Melissa, and today we're going to talk about what makes a true market leader. So I know that in the Discord chat room for the Mara Elite, you abbreviate sometimes as TML. So that's something that not everybody is aware of. So I'm glad that we were able to clarify that that is an abbreviation for what makes a true market leader.
Right, and this isn't like my thing that I came up with. I heard this. I actually first heard it from IBD, Investors Business Daily, with like what a true market leader is, and then over the years I've heard so many different definitions about true market leaders that I just put it out to the room, like, well, how do you define a true market leader? And for us to start to come up with our own list and definitions of what true market leaders are, I just thought that that would be a great exercise to go through.
No, I love it, but why is that even important? Like, why is that something that you need to identify what these true market leaders are? Like,
A true market leader is important because it's not just a stock that's leading the market, not just a stock that's making new 52-week highs, but it's important because it's the type of stock that can go up for several months, several quarters, several years. And so by looking for stocks that have those kind of characteristics, it allows you to go back to the well multiple times and to either swing trade them, or if you're doing an intermediate term trade, this is something that you'll be able to get into and just ride for a longer trend. There's a lot of great uses for focusing on true market leaders.
so time frame, then you would say, is very important.
Yeah, time frame is important. Like, so it's not just a stock that's going to make a fresh high and then, like it's done a week later. Like this is one that's going to be moving for a considerable period.
Okay, so if it's you're checking off the box for like a certain like
Yeah,
time frames, but does it have to hit all of those different time frames, or like that's just the way that you determine how it passes your criteria?
for me, I wanted to. So I think that's a good first step. I think that some people, well, what I've seen is some confusion about a true market leader, or at least some debate, is like, oh, like a stock hits a fresh high and it's starting to move quickly out of the gate. It's already a leader or a true market leader. Well, I would argue that it's a leader, but in order to fulfill or to become a true market leader, I think that it needs to show some level of sustainability. So whether that for the individual definition, whether it's for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, there needs to be some kind of staying power that's involved. Um, so the way that I'm looking at it, if it's like a recent IPO, I'd want to see some sustainability of at least 4 weeks or more, where it's starting to hit fresh high after fresh high, and then saying like, oh, like it has the potential to become a true market leader, and then over a series of several months where I've seen it continuously push higher, and not just push higher in price, but to have the volume behind it as well. So, like a key characteristic that I've observed is that when stocks move and they continuously make new highs, what's going to be driving that price higher? It's not like you and me that are in there that are just like, oh, like this stock looks great, I'm going to start buying up shares. It's major institutions. So, and we could see and tell what the major institutions are doing, because when they are accumulating shares, that like you could see these giant spikes in volume right on the chart.
Okay, so when you're like following their coattails, you're seeing like what these major players are doing, then you have a better sense as to, hey, there might be some movement going on here. Let me now check this box for my list of what makes a true market leader. So are you in the market with that stock at this time, or you're still watching?
Oh well, there's more than one, right? Like, so it's not just like this is the true market leader. No, like the way that I'm looking at it is for it to be a leader in, yes, a leader in the market, but also a leader in its own sector and a leader within its own industry group.
So you could have multiple true market leaders because there's multiple sectors.
Right. So a couple that I'm looking at now that I'm trading and we've discussed it in the room. So Crocs, right? Like those sandal type
I was
thing.
just thinking I wanted to get a pair for Lily this summer.
There you go.
Yeah, parents love it. They say their kids love it.
But it doesn't have to necessarily be a stock that you even know what they do, right? Like In Mode is another one. It's a medical company, and then this other one, Gartner. The ticker is IT. So then there should be something that's some kind of new or it factor in a part of the bottom. The ticker symbol is IT, but there should be some kind of like it factor, X factor, whatever you want to call it. There should be something something that's new about them, a game changer, something about this that's going to be the catalyst that makes it grow for a long time.
Okay, so we have that it had like so for Crocs, for example, like what about Crocs made you realize like what boxes have you checked for that particular one?
Well, for me, it's like understanding like more of the theme behind what's driving it, and it's not like an intimate like understanding of the company per se, right? Like
So you're not checking earnings, or is that still a piece of
earnings
it?
are important. Yeah, like so like I'll have my check boxes of things that I want to look at. I want to look at earnings and sales, and ideally see them growing substantially, bare minimum 25% or more quarter over quarter. I like to see 40% or more quarter over quarter for both. I like to see accelerating earnings, accelerating sales, high projections, things like that. But yeah, well, like um, I think that people can go overboard when it comes to uh, understanding like all of the balance sheets and things like that. I think that or like tracking um, in the news or they like I
It
like to
sounds like it's a
remain.
piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle.
Yeah, no, I think that I actually like to maintain a certain level of detachment from trades too. Well, what I've found is that if I tend to know a little bit too much about a company, then it almost turns into a like a pet stock where like oh like I know this company inside and out, so therefore like every time that it does dip, then I should be buying more. Well, that's not necessarily the case, right? Like nobody knows more than the market, so I would rather follow what the market is doing, know a little bit about the company, and then use price to confirm what it's actually doing.
Okay, so it's good to know at least a little. Do your research. Have at least a basic understanding of what the company's doing, the earnings, but don't like dive so deep into it that you are so immersed in it that you could make a poor decision.
Yeah, because if there's a very relevant story that Sadhguru was telling Ed Milet on one of his interviews. For anybody that doesn't know who Sadhguru is, he's Indian mystic, yogi, and one of the stories that he was telling Ed was about story of creation. Right, so what he was saying in the story was one day God had nothing to do, so he had some marbles and he shot one into space, and that became the Earth. And you know,
Here we are.
but that's obviously a ridiculous story, he went on to say, and so you could easily dismiss it. The problem becomes when the stories start to become so complex that you begin to believe the story, right? If you have a level of detachment and you're just seeing like, well, what actually is here and you're present, then uh, you know it makes it a lot easier to assess what is versus believing like some kind of a complex story.
Reminds me of what we talked about with Lily yesterday when she had seen that cartoon with zombies and she really believed that zombies are real. And as an author, I'm telling her that no, there was an author behind that cartoon or whatever who said, I'm going to write this story about a zombie, and like proceeded to say like now one day and then this kid came and then there comes a zombie. So explaining like how the story comes about gives that level of detachment because I understand that it's not real, and so trying to be able to explain that to a 6-year-old that like she just believes that zombies are real because it's on TV, so it must be real. And I'm like, no, there's so much that goes into like into that particular show or into that story.
It's on TV, so it must be real. That like how many of us have like fallen into that trap and still think that way into adulthood, right? Like, yeah, like. The problem is believing stories, and we could work up stories and start believing them. But the only thing at the end of the day that matters is, well, what's actually happening, and what's actually happening as far as the market goes is visible to everybody in price and in volume, or really ultimately where price.
That's great. So, your checklist for your particular way to determine a true market leader. And
yes.
This is different for everyone. Like everybody can have their own type of criteria. But for you, let's just go down the list again. We had Timeframe.
Right. So seeing price make new highs for an extended period, typically at least a month or more to start to fall into like, okay, like maybe this could be a true market leader. Another thing that we haven't mentioned yet is, well, sort of mentioned, is relative strength being at fresh highs and continuing to push into fresh highs. So relative strength meaning how is this stock performing relative to the general market, like the S&P 500, right? Like it should, if it's a leader, it should be beating the market consistently.
Is there anything else that we've missed? So we have relative strength, time frame, sustainability, volume, if it has that it factor.
Yes, and leader in the market, its sector, and its industry group.
All right, great. And are you buying all of the different ones, or you're just watching them to see like which of these market leaders you want? I guess that's the part I'm missing. There's multiple
like, well, what's the point, right? Like,
yeah. So you identified which ones are out there in each of its sectors. So what do you do now?
Got it. So you have this list of what you've deemed as true market leaders. Great. So you keep that on a special list, and then when you're doing your evening or weekend work, you go through that list, and if you find one of those true market leaders that happen to be actionable, setting up in a pattern that you like, or pulling back or whatever, that's going to say like, hey, this is a buying opportunity, then because it's on that special true market leader list, then that's like one extra thing to say, I better pay special attention to this because here's my opportunity.
I see.
Right, like, versus like all the other stocks in the market where like they might be a great trade, but this one here being a true market leader gives you that little bit extra of like, okay, not only is it going to that confidence, that it has a stronger chance of working and continuing to work, or if you're even thinking of it as a longer term opportunity, great, like now you've identified it and you could get into a leader that can be sustainable.
I love it. I hope this answered your questions about what a true market leader is. So you can take what Mike does and then you could try it out for yourself and leave in the comments if there's anything else that you look at for determining what a true market leader is to fit your criteria. We'd love to hear from you. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope you found this show informative and helpful today. And I can't wait to see you next time.
Yes, now take it and run with it.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.